Scientists have dedicated their lives to uncovering the weird and wonderful mysteries of our world. Sometimes that relentless effort finally pays off, and age-old mysteries that have lingered for centuries are at last brought to light. But it seems that not every mystery is meant to be solved completely. But first, don't forget to like and subscribe so that you can be part of our notification squad. Encounters with the Devil. Throughout human history, countless individuals have claimed to have come face to face with the devil himself. What's remarkable is that stories of these encounters are anything but rare. One of the most famous accounts originates from Loftus Hall in Ireland. Loftus Hall is an old manor located in County Wexford, Ireland. For generations, this striking building has been rumoured to be haunted, and it is regarded by many paranormal researchers as one of the most possessed houses in all of Ireland. The reason lies in the many legendary tales tied to its history. Over the years, both residents and visitors have recounted their own strange experiences within its walls. The most well-known story is connected to a mystery that occurred in 1765, a tale that continues to attract curious visitors to this day. It began on a stormy night in Ireland. As fierce winds and rain battered the outside world, those inside the manor were left restless, unable to do much in the face of such dreadful weather. Just then, someone in the house spotted an old ship making its way into the nearby bay. As everyone watched, they saw a large man walking toward the house. At the time, it wasn't unusual for strangers to seek shelter during a storm. When the man arrived at the door, he knocked 3 times and was promptly invited in by the master of the house. At this point, everyone realized he was just a man, and he explained that the weather had become too dangerous, asking for refuge until the storm passed. Given the circumstances, the family thought nothing of it and welcomed him inside. Strangely, the man stayed at the manor for more than a week. The hosts were hospitable, and no one minded the extra company. During his stay, a young woman named Anne began to fall for the mysterious guest. She spent much of her time talking and bonding with him. But everything changed one stormy night as Anne and the stranger played cards. Everything seemed perfectly ordinary until Anne accidentally dropped a card. As she bent down to pick it up, she was horrified to see that the man's feet were actually cloven hooves, just like those of the devil. Anne screamed in terror. Instantly, the mysterious visitor revealed his true demonic form and shot up through the roof, leaving behind a large hole in the ceiling. Anne was so traumatized by what she had seen that she never recovered. Her mental health deteriorated rapidly, and her family was forced to lock her away in a secluded room until her death. People believe that, after that event, the house was forever changed, as if it had gained a new, restless spirit. Guests who stayed there began reporting supernatural phenomena. Some claimed to see Anne's spirit wandering the halls, while others believed the stranger's curse had left its mark on the manor. Several priests tried to drive away the evil, but none succeeded. Many witnesses have seen the ghostly figure of a woman in white drifting through the house, thought to be Anne herself, still searching for answers to that fateful night. Some visitors say the ceiling still bears unusual marks, supposedly where the devil burst through the roof. Others sense a dark, oppressive energy lingering in the room where Anne was confined. Loftus Hall has even been featured on television programs such as Ghost Adventures. Researchers who have studied the legend believe that the mysterious guest may have tried to lure Anne away, while others suggest the story is little more than local folklore. Either way, to this day, crowds continue to flock to Loftus Hall, famously known as the place where the devil once dined. And sometimes, someone even manages to snap a blurry photo thought to capture the presence of a lingering spirit. The Aztecs. One ancient civilization that has captivated researchers is the Aztecs. This was one of the most powerful and impressive empires ever to emerge in South America. The sheer strength of the Aztec people allowed their civilization to dominate nearly the entire region. They built their central city on the site of what is now modern-day Mexico City, and for decades, the Aztecs have remained a focal point of archaeological debate. It appears that this ancient tribe achieved many technological breakthroughs for their time, including a complex, highly detailed calendar with remarkably accurate star charts, specialized crafts such as ceramics and intricate featherwork, as well as early advances in writing and higher education. What's most intriguing is that, even though we have an abundance of information about this ancient civilization from myths and historical records, to this day we know surprisingly little about the true origins of the Aztec tribe or how they differed from their neighboring peoples. To the first settlers, Aztec culture and religion seemed almost otherworldly, characterized by apocalyptic visions and gruesome sacrificial rituals intended to appease their gods, driven by a deep fear that calamity would befall them if these ceremonies were neglected. The origins of these rituals do not appear to come solely from the Aztec Empire itself. According to their mythology, the Aztecs spoke of an ancient land, the legendary Aztlan, which they believed was home to 7 tribes who emerged from a city known as the Place of 7 Caves. Each cave housed a separate group, shielding them from the outside world until they finally left the Earth's depths and eventually formed separate empires. This element of the legend curiously resembles the idea of some kind of ancient underground shelter. Since each tribe tells the story of this land a little differently, no one has ever pinpointed the location of Aztlan, and the ongoing, fruitless search has led many to believe it is simply a religious myth rather than a historical reality. Unless new discoveries or translations of Aztec mythology come to light, these ancient cities and lands will likely remain forever shrouded in mystery. Grassman. Grassman is another giant creature said to roam the forests of Indiana and West Virginia. Grassman is described as a large humanoid being covered entirely in thick hair. Unlike most Bigfoot sightings across North America, Grassman appears to be much more aggressive. Many witnesses have reported that, when they stumbled across this creature in the woods, Grassman was actually capable of building small huts for shelter, a behavior never observed in Bigfoot legends. The earliest accounts of Grassman date back to 1970, when a group of children ran home terrified, telling their grandparents that a hairy man was rummaging through the trash. When the 2 adults went to investigate, they saw a large, hairy creature searching for food, but it quickly fled once it was spotted. The more researchers have looked into this region, the more stories have emerged about an ape-like creature living in huts made from tall grass. However, every time people return to these spots, the area has been abandoned. The creature has moved on after being discovered. One theory put forward by some researchers is that what people are actually seeing are the last descendants of Gigantopithecus, the largest ape ever to walk the earth. Scientists believe that Gigantopithecus could weigh up to half a ton, but information about this species is extremely limited, with only a few fossilized teeth and jawbones ever uncovered. Paleontologists have always wondered how such a giant ape could move with so much mass, suggesting it must have had incredibly powerful muscles and bones. Some believe Gigantopithecus supported most of its weight with its arms, while others argue it may have walked upright on 2 legs, like a human. Another mystery is the timeline of Gigantopithecus. It's believed that its largest populations existed about 2 million years ago, with the last individuals going extinct around 200,000 years ago. Despite its massive size, Gigantopithecus was a herbivore, mainly eating fruit and bamboo. The strength of these giants was astonishing. A typical gorilla is estimated to be 4 to 9 times stronger than an adult human, and wild gorillas have been seen breaking large trees with ease. Based on size estimates, Gigantopithecus may have been 12 to 30 times stronger than a human, with some researchers suggesting the number could be as high as 50 times. However, even though this species is thought to have vanished long ago, some people still believe that somewhere in the wildest regions, Gigantopithecus might still survive. The story of Johann Georg Faust. This was hardly the only time people have recounted encounters with the devil. Over the years, many have shared stories claiming to have met the Prince of Darkness himself. One of the most famous among these is the story of Johann Georg Faust. Yet, this account contains so many strange details that people have long wondered whether Faust ever truly existed at all. In fact, in the early 17th century, many believed he was merely a fictional character, at least until new documents began to emerge from various sources confirming his existence. According to legend, Johann Georg Faust began his studies at a very young age, initially training to become a physician. It wasn't long before he became one of the most talented doctors of his time, and he went on to pursue other fields, earning the title of Doctor of Philosophy, mastering the art of alchemy, and excelling in astronomy. But eventually, once science could no longer satisfy him, he became one of the greatest sorcerers the world had ever known. Numerous accounts record that the churches of that era rejected Faust, believing he had given his soul over to dark magic, especially after he loudly declared that he could reproduce all the miracles performed by Jesus Christ himself. With supernatural powers at his command, Faust used his magic to summon the devil and struck a bargain. He would surrender his soul if the devil agreed to serve him for 24 years. The pact was sealed, the devil appeared, and fulfilled Faust's every desire, from food and drink to much more. After about 16 years, Faust attempted to break the deal, but the devil convinced him to keep enjoying life and even extended the contract for another 8 years. At this point, Faust even had the devil summon Helen of Troy to take as his wife. On the final day of the pact, the devil announced that when the clock struck midnight, Faust would die as agreed. Sure enough, at midnight, a loud explosion was heard coming from Faust's room, and all that remained afterward was his corpse scattered in pieces throughout the chamber. The Devil's Bible, Codex Gigas. Another bizarre story is tied to a mysterious book. One of the most famous legends about making a pact with the devil is the existence of the Codex Gigas, also known as the Devil's Bible. It is said that the Codex Gigas was written by the devil himself after a desperate monk summoned him and bargained his life away. According to legend, in the year 1230 AD, at a monastery in Bohemia, where black-robed monks practiced the strictest forms of Christian self-mortification and isolation, a monk committed such a grave sin that those around him decided his punishment would be to wall him up alive inside the crypt. To escape this fate, the monk promised he would write the greatest book ever made, one that would contain all human knowledge, and do it in a single night. The monastery accepted his bizarre proposal on one condition. If he completed it, he would be pardoned. If not, the original punishment would be carried out. Panicked, the monk worked through the night, gathering all the materials he needed and binding the massive book. But soon he realized the task was impossible. As the clock struck midnight, he performed a dark ritual and summoned the devil. He quickly made a pact, selling his soul in exchange for supernatural power to finish the book and save his life. In an instant, the devil agreed, completing the gigantic book in just one night. What's extraordinary is that modern experts, upon studying the Codex Gigas, have found evidence that the entire colossal volume was indeed written by a single person in a remarkably short period of time. Normally, completing such a work would take a lifetime, yet the handwriting is consistent throughout, only possible if a single author used the same ink and formula for every page. Notably, the book contains an entire page devoted to a portrait of the devil himself, a testament to its authorship. Even today, the Codex Gigas remains shrouded in mystery. Megalodon. One of the largest predators ever to exist on Earth was the giant shark known as Megalodon. It can be said that this creature was also one of the greatest killers ever to reign over our planet's oceans. Scientists have offered many different explanations for the extinction of this monster, ranging from climate change to the theory that its primary food source, mainly whales, migrated to colder waters. However, some researchers argue that the main reason behind the collapse of Megalodon was its own colossal size. Megalodon sharks possess truly enormous bodies. They could easily reach lengths of 60 feet, and their bite was even more powerful than that of a Tyrannosaurus rex. Strangely, even though they did not exist alongside early humans, Megalodon suddenly disappeared from the world's oceans. Many believe that it was precisely this massive size that allowed Megalodon to become the undisputed ruler of the deep. Yet, the truth is that its gigantic body turned out to be a fatal weakness in the natural world. In order to maintain its massive body weight and muscle mass, Megalodon needed an incredibly intense metabolism, which meant it had to hunt almost non-stop. Estimates suggest that a Megalodon would need to consume more than 2,400 pounds of meat each day just to survive. That means if food supplies dwindled in the areas they controlled, these sharks would quickly face starvation. The Megalodon's diet mainly consisted of whales, sea turtles, and seals, so it was constantly on the move to satisfy its immense caloric needs, sometimes even eating its own young or risking its life in search of prey. This is also one of the reasons scientists give for the extinction of Megalodon. They argue that a predator of such size simply could not survive in the modern era. Still, why do sporadic reports of humans encountering unusually large sharks at sea continue to surface? These stories have been around for hundreds of years, and each tale shares some striking similarities. One of the most famous cases comes from Australia. In 1918, Australian naturalist David Stead recorded a bizarre incident. A group of local fishermen, after witnessing a terrifying event, quit their jobs and refused to ever go back out to sea. According to their accounts, a giant shark had swallowed an entire net full of fish in a single bite, destroyed all their equipment, and nearly capsized the boat. These men were seasoned veterans, intimately familiar with every type of shark, certainly not the type to be easily frightened. Yet they swore the creature they saw was unlike any shark they had ever encountered. According to collected reports, the shark was said to be over 300 feet long and completely white. Many dismiss this as impossible since no shark of such size has ever been recorded. Some suggest the story was exaggerated over time and that the shark may have been just over 50 feet in length. However, one detail that caught researchers' attention was the creature's unusual coloring. The fishermen described a great disturbance just beneath the water's surface, then saw a massive white shark glide past. All agreed it could not have been a whale. Another theory suggests that what the fishermen really saw was a shark, but in their panic they misjudged its size, because when confronted with a giant creature in real life, everything appears larger than it is. For this reason, some have speculated it might have been a whale shark, the largest fish in the ocean, capable of growing to over 40 feet and sometimes reported as reaching over 65 feet. Whale sharks are gentle giants, typically found in tropical waters and known for their peaceful nature. They are usually blue and white, but an albino whale shark would appear like a phantom of the sea. Yet, whale sharks feed only on plankton, which is completely at odds with what the fishermen described. They reported that the shark overturned baskets of shrimp and devoured everything nearby. No whale shark has ever been recorded behaving this way, and experts insist it simply wouldn't happen. Thus, although the albino whale shark theory was proposed, it remains unconvincing. Many researchers believe some elements of the story may have been embellished over time. To this day, the scientific community has been unable to definitively explain what the mysterious creature in Australian waters actually was. Most believe it was pure fabrication, but there are still those who are convinced the fishermen truly encountered a giant shark. Some bold theories even propose that a small population of megalodon could have survived in deep ocean regions, only appearing when necessary. This may sound far-fetched, but certain sightings of enormous sharks have left people with lingering doubts. To this day, the mystery remains unsolved. Going back to the 1960s, there was yet another alleged sighting of megalodon in modern times. According to reports, the captain of a 50-foot fishing boat claimed he once saw a gigantic white shark, larger than his own vessel, gliding past the hull. When others doubted his story, suggesting it might have been a whale, the captain was adamant that it was a shark and could not possibly have been any species of whale. In addition, another giant creature known as the black demon shark has become the subject of legend. This shark is said to inhabit the waters off the coast of Mexico, sometimes appearing in the tales of local fishermen. They insist they have seen a black shark around 60 feet long, resembling a great white but with much darker coloring and an unusually large tail. Reports of this creature match remarkably well with modern reconstructions of megalodon. Many experienced fishermen, men who know every whale species, tell stories of catching large fish only to find the bodies bitten clean in half, with bite marks 3 times the size of an ordinary great white. So far, no one has been able to determine exactly what the black demon shark really is. Most mainstream scientists reject all theories suggesting megalodon might still exist, arguing that today's climate simply could not support such a massive shark. They reason that the oceans don't have enough food, and if Megalodon really were alive, there would be far more evidence than just a handful of isolated cases. However, some believe these giants may be hiding in the depths, only surfacing when necessary. Keep in mind that 95% of our oceans have yet to be fully explored, so no one can definitively say Megalodon does not exist. So far, scientists have discovered more than 242,000 species of marine life, and each year, over 2,000 new species are still being found. As long as stories of giant sharks continue to circulate, the legend of Megalodon will undoubtedly live on. Dinosaur discoveries and modern mysteries. In recent decades, images of dinosaurs have become ever-present in the media, appearing in films, television, and books. Throughout Earth's long history, billions of species have arisen and disappeared, vanishing during extinction events that forced life to adapt and take on countless forms. Yet even today, we can still touch ancient relics left behind, from dinosaur teeth to their bones. Although these ancient giants vanished millions of years ago, they have always fascinated the human imagination, and despite all we've learned, dinosaurs remain shrouded in a lingering veil of mystery with no final answers in sight. A few years ago, the public was stirred by reports of a dinosaur-like creature discovered in Jasper, a small town in India. Photographs of this creature quickly spread across social media, attracting the curiosity of countless viewers who wondered what it could be. Some groups became excited by the theory that a small group of dinosaurs might have quietly survived, undetected by humankind. The story went that an electrician, while cleaning out an abandoned power station, stumbled upon a strange object. Dragging it into the light, he realized it was the remains of a creature that looked remarkably like a dinosaur. What made people suspicious was that the remains did not appear to be fossilized or especially ancient. Many noted that it resembled a theropod, the famous group of hollow-boned, three-toed dinosaurs like Tyrannosaurus rex. However, everyone knows it's impossible for a dinosaur or any ancient creature to remain intact for millions of years without fossilizing. Some speculated that it was actually the failed product of a scientific experiment left behind by accident. Still, information about this discovery quickly faded into obscurity as no further evidence was produced. The story spread in 2017, and not until early 2019 did a plausible explanation finally surface. After closely examining the photos, a paleontologist commented, "What's interesting here is that I don't think this is a hoax. It looks like a real animal, and honestly, I think someone just wanted to play a trick on people. It certainly has some theropod-like features, but it's clearly not one. It's almost certainly the remains of a mammal." Some suggested it was the body of a marten, and this view was supported by many experts. Nevertheless, some believed stories like this should never be promoted in the media, while other paleontologists felt that such tales have a certain appeal as long as the truth is made clear. This was the fresh remains of a modern mammal, not a dinosaur fossil. One likely candidate for this animal was indeed the marten. It's also worth noting that when animals die, their bodies can take on shapes very different from how they looked in life, which likely applies to this particular creature as well. To this day, scientists agree that the remains discovered in Jasper were, in fact, those of a modern mammal, most likely a marten. This is hardly the only controversial discovery in paleontology. A few years ago, scientists found a Tyrannosaurus rex bone over 68 million years old that still contained soft tissue inside, an astonishing revelation for researchers. This discovery was made by Mary Schweitzer, a molecular paleontologist at North Carolina State University. In 2005, she and her colleagues found soft tissue and even blood within a fossil, something almost unimaginable, as scientists believed soft tissues would have decayed completely in less than 1,000,000 years. However, new studies show that iron in the dinosaur's body may have preserved the tissue before it could decompose. Another shocking find came in March 2011. A team of miners in Alberta, Canada, accidentally uncovered a dinosaur fossil so well preserved that its skin pattern was still visible. This fossil can only be described as a dinosaur mummy. a nodosaur that lived 110 million years ago and grew nearly 18 feet long. Unlike previous fossils that consisted only of bones, this was the first time a complete specimen was found with bones, armor, and skin all intact, allowing us to see a dinosaur almost exactly as it was millions of years ago. Scientists determined that the nodosaur was a herbivore, protected by massive shoulder spikes up to 2 feet long. The fossil remained so intact because it had been buried beneath the ocean for a very long time. According to archaeologists, the nodosaur's body was swept out to sea by floodwaters, and when it hit the seabed, its heavy weight created an impact crater before being rapidly buried by sediment, protecting it from scavengers and decay. Thanks to this, we now have a nearly perfect fossil of one of the giants that once roamed the ancient islands. Specialists spent 6 years extracting the fossil from the surrounding rock, with over 7,000 hours of painstaking labor. This stunning nodosaur is now on display at the Royal Tyrrell Museum in Alberta and is regarded as one of the most impressive fossils ever discovered. Spinosaurus. One of the most mysterious dinosaurs of all is Spinosaurus. Before delving into what we still don't know about this creature, let's revisit what science has already established. The name Spinosaurus comes from Latin, meaning spined lizard. Today, scientists and paleontologists have managed to reconstruct much of its skeleton based on fossils found in Egypt. Although the remains are not complete, they can still estimate the missing parts by comparing them with other related bones. Naturally, this method has led to heated debate among researchers about the true size and skeletal structure of Spinosaurus. However, new fossils are unearthed every year, gradually revealing more about the shape and habits of this ancient animal. From the collected fossils, scientists believe Spinosaurus was between 41 and 59 feet long, weighing anywhere from 17,000 to 50,000 pounds. Compared to its famed rival, Tyrannosaurus rex, Spinosaurus stood shorter but boasted an enormous sail-like structure running down its back, making it appear taller than many of its contemporaries. As is typical with incomplete fossils, most opinions about Spinosaurus remain speculative. The most striking feature of Spinosaurus, and the source of its name, was the large sail protruding from its back. The true function of this sail is hotly debated in the paleontological community, with countless theories put forward. Some scientists suggest it was a thin, bat-like membrane filled with large blood vessels, helping Spinosaurus regulate its body temperature. Others argue the structure was too large compared to other sailed animals, possibly supporting much greater weight, perhaps covered in feathers to show off during mating rituals or to intimidate rivals. A less common theory focuses on Spinosaurus's diet and lifestyle. Some scientists believe it may have spent most of its life in the water, with its back sail functioning like a shark's fin to cut through water and reduce drag while swimming. To this day, Spinosaurus remains one of the most hotly debated dinosaurs in paleontological history, with new theories emerging every year about its appearance, the behavior, and the true environment in which it lived. The Trunco creature and unsolved mysteries of the deep. There have been stories of killer whales joining forces to attack a mysterious creature out at sea, while stunned eyewitnesses watched in silent disbelief. This sea monster was described as having a long trunk as thick as an elephant's, its entire body covered in thick white fur like a polar bear, and a swollen, enormous form much like a small whale. With its distinct trunk, people called it Trunco, believing it to be a creature unknown to science. Even though Trunco's corpse lay decomposing on the beach for over 10 days and was visited by countless curious onlookers, not a single scientist or expert ever approached or preserved the specimen for research. This led many to suggest that Trunco was simply the remains of a large whale or a case of mistaken identity. However, eyewitnesses insisted that what they saw could not have been just a whale. Sadly, we will probably never know what Trunco really looked like or where it came from, making it one of the ocean's most perplexing unsolved mysteries. Today, many cryptozoology websites have removed Trunco, arguing that it was merely the bloated carcass of a whale, though many eyewitnesses continue to emphasize the creature's unusual features. In fact, in recent years, there have been new reports of enormous white-furred creatures washing ashore, but scientists still maintain that these are only decomposing whales. Nevertheless, science has managed to solve many mysteries by examining beached creatures, but that does not mean the ocean has yielded all its secrets. 95% of the ocean floor remains unexplored, and every year hundreds of new species are discovered, such as the coelacanth, a living fossil once thought extinct. It's very possible that many prehistoric creatures have adapted to the deep sea and still survive in silence. Who knows, perhaps in the near future, some ancient relic will once again shock the world. The lizard man of Scape Ore Swamp. Many people have claimed to have seen mysterious creatures firsthand, and such encounters often change their views overnight. One of the most famous cases is that of the lizard man of Scape Ore Swamp, which took place a few decades ago. In 1988, Christopher Davis, a 17-year-old local, recounted that while driving near Scape Ore Swamp, he struck a creature described as having green skin, a soaking wet body, standing over 7 feet tall, with lizard-like skin, 3 fingers on each hand, glowing red and white eyes, and a body covered in scales. The locals later dubbed it the Lizard Man of Scape Ore. More encounters continued to be reported in the years that followed, with some people seeing the creature miles from the swamp. At the height of the frenzy, a local radio station, WCOS, even offered a $1 million reward to anyone who could capture the creature alive and bring it to their studio. Though many believed this was just a publicity stunt, the incident drew attention from nearby military bases. An Air Force officer named Kenneth, who worked at Shaw Air Force Base, submitted a report to the police claiming that he had confronted the lizard man near Highway 15, even shooting at it and believing he had wounded the creature, though no body was found. Although scales and traces of blood were discovered at the scene, Kenneth was later arrested for carrying an illegal weapon and making a false statement. This only fueled more speculation that the military was secretly tracking and covering up the lizard man's existence to avoid public panic. In reality, it's hard to imagine anyone confusing this creature with a known animal. Over the past 30 years, only a handful of sporadic reports have come out of the Scape Ore area, with most encounters occurring at night when witnesses were alone. Eyewitnesses consistently described a large, bipedal, human-like figure capable of feats beyond human ability. For example, one person claimed that the creature was so strong it could lift an entire car. This left villagers living near the swamp terrified, as they continued to report a strange creature that no one could explain. One notable incident occurred on July 4, 1988, when the Lee County Sheriff received a report about a car that had been vandalized overnight in Brownstown, just outside Bishopville, right next to Scape Ore Swamp. When they arrived, 2 police officers found the vehicle covered in bite marks, deep scratches, and huge muddy footprints all around, clear evidence that something enormous had been at the scene. Sheriff Liston Truesdale documented local accounts of a giant lizard-like creature causing trouble for several nights in a row. The footprints measured about 14 to 15 inches in length with clear toe marks. Oddly, biologists later advised against sending the tracks for analysis, saying they were impossible to classify. The South Carolina Department of Marine Resources also confirmed that the prints did not match any known animal species. Still, some wildlife experts argued that they might just be tracks left by a local animal, while others believed the government was deliberately covering up the truth. Eventually, the story faded away, and the legend of the lizard man slowly slipped into silence. In 2008, a local couple reported that their car had been vandalized by a mysterious creature, leaving behind scales and scratches that could not be explained by any known animal. Another couple recounted a strange experience. While driving near Scape Ore Swamp, we encountered something that could only have been the lizard man. As we passed through the area, my husband saw someone waving for help in the rearview mirror. Because we weren't driving fast, we turned around to check. I was about to get out, but my husband stopped me because it was already dark and we couldn't see clearly. We waited a few minutes before deciding to leave. Just then, we heard a scraping noise at the back of the car, and when my husband leaned out the window, I looked back and saw a creature nearly 7 feet tall, slender, with greenish-yellow skin, a long tail, but I couldn't see its face clearly. The whole thing happened in just 10 seconds before we sped off. From that moment, we were convinced we had encountered the lizard man of Scape Ore. However, some skeptics believe the lizard man was simply a black bear. Black bears in South Carolina can stand between 5 and 7 feet tall when upright and may scratch vehicles when they smell food inside. This could also explain the blood and scales left behind. Still, many people believe the lizard man is a real creature, comparing it to legends like Mothman or Bigfoot, and every few years another sighting is reported. Some researchers think it may be an unknown species living in the swamps or on isolated islands, but to truly convince the public, conclusive evidence is needed. In recent years, there have been no new reports of the lizard man in the Scape Ore area, leading many to believe that, whatever it was, the creature has since left this place. The first moon landings and unexplained mysteries. The first unmanned mission to the moon took place in 1959 under the Soviet Union's lunar program, while the first human landing was achieved by Apollo 11 in 1969. The main goal of Apollo 11 was to fulfill the national objective set by President John F. Kennedy on May 25, 1961, to land a man on the moon and return him safely to Earth. Secondary objectives included conducting scientific research using the lunar module, deploying a television camera to transmit signals back to Earth, and placing experimental devices to measure solar wind and moonquakes. During their exploration, the two astronauts were also tasked with collecting samples from the moon to bring back to Earth, as well as taking as many photographs of the lunar surface as possible. On July 20, 1969, two American astronauts, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, became the first humans to set foot on the moon. About 6.5 hours later, Armstrong became the first to step onto the lunar surface and delivered his iconic line, "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." Armstrong and Aldrin spent a total of 21 hours and 36 minutes on the moon. After a period of rest, including 7 hours of sleep, the ascent engine was fired at 124 hours and 22 minutes, shutting down after 435 seconds when the Eagle reached its initial orbit between 11 and 55 miles above the moon as the Columbia orbited for the 25th time. Interestingly, in the years that followed, some people produced strange photographs that could suggest odd phenomena had occurred on the moon. Looking back, a peculiar phenomenon was noticed by sharp-eyed viewers in archival Apollo 11 footage. In one photo of the moon, when zoomed in, many noticed what appeared to be an object hovering above the lunar surface. This photo quickly became known as "break off." Some speculated it was a fragment of the moon ejected at the exact moment the photo was taken. Strangely, in another photo taken just seconds later, the object was gone, sparking numerous theories about its true nature. Amateur astronomers submitted the original photo to NASA for an explanation, but to this day, NASA has never provided an answer. In addition, a former head of a secret government program investigating UFO phenomena made some bold public statements. He told multiple media outlets that extraterrestrial life may well exist and that millions of dollars had been invested in researching unusual technologies associated with unidentified aerial phenomena. These headlines quickly attracted global attention, as for the past 80 years, countless people have recounted experiences of seeing mysterious lights in the sky. It's important to remember that a UFO is simply an unidentified flying object at the time it's observed, not immediately equated with aliens. Only in recent years has the term UFO become commonly associated with extraterrestrial beings. Nevertheless, the idea that Earth might have been visited by other forms of life still captivates many people. Some argue that if you are to believe any UFO stories, you should believe those told by people who have actually flown in space. Among the astronauts who have claimed to see strange objects are Edgar Mitchell, Cady Coleman, and Dr. Brian O'Leary. Buzz Aldrin himself spoke of an experience during Apollo 11 when he and his crew saw an object flying alongside their spacecraft. At first, they thought it was the last stage of their booster rocket until Mission Control confirmed that it was more than 6,000 miles away. Dr. Brian O'Leary, a former NASA astronaut, stated, "There is abundant evidence that we are being contacted, that civilizations have been visiting us for a very long time. Their appearance is far beyond anything our materialistic Western understanding can grasp. They use technologies of consciousness, coaxial disks, to travel. This is the common feature of UFO phenomena." NASA image analyst and scientist George Leonard has his own story. While working for NASA, he gained access to a large number of official lunar photos, as well as conversations with dozens of NASA personnel and access to astronaut recordings. He later published the book Somebody Else is on the Moon, in which he revealed many mysterious images. However, because the image quality was poor, many dismissed them as insufficient evidence or even outright fakes. Scientifically, this phenomenon is called pareidolia, when our brains recognize familiar shapes, like faces, in random details, leading us to attach mysterious significance to them. Another mysterious event surfaced during a live Apollo 11 television broadcast in Western Australia. Many viewers watching NASA's transmission witnessed something odd. A woman named Ona Ronald recounted that residents of Honeysuckle Creek in Australia watched a broadcast that was different from the rest of the world. Just before Armstrong set foot on the moon, the TV image shifted from dark to suddenly bright, though the audio continued as normal. They noticed this was different from the global transmission. While Ona and others watched Armstrong walk on the moon, she clearly saw a Coca-Cola bottle kicked across the right side of the screen. Shocked, Ona called friends to see if they had witnessed the same thing, but everyone else had missed the moment. Later, when she watched the rebroadcast the following day, she no longer saw the detail, and the replay seemed somehow altered. Several others came forward to confirm the anomaly, prompting local newspapers in Western Australia to report the story. Some time ago, a video circulated online claiming that Buzz Aldrin admitted humans had never been to the moon. A little girl asked him, "Why haven't we returned to the moon?" And he replied, "That's my question too. I want to know, but I think I know, because we never went there, and that's the way it happened. If it didn't happen, it's good to know why. So in the future, if we want to keep going, we need to know what stopped us in the past." This answer caused many to focus on the phrase, "we never went there," suggesting Buzz had finally confessed that we'd never actually been to space. At the time, numerous websites claimed he had accidentally revealed the truth. Some people, analyzing his body language, believed Buzz was telling the truth. However, in the same interview, he clearly explained that the reason for not returning to the moon was simply the enormous cost. That was the primary reason NASA didn't repeat a mission that had already succeeded and instead focused on new projects. Buzz made a compelling case about the budget. In 1973, the entire Apollo program was reported to Congress at $25.4 billion, a massive sum, so repeating a successful mission wasn't practical. NASA, he argued, should focus on new goals. Still, not everyone was convinced, and many continued to believe he had slipped up and revealed the truth. Recently, there has even been news that NASA lost the original tapes of the first moonwalk. Surprisingly, there is a grain of truth in this rumor. NASA confirmed that they had been unable to locate some of the original data tapes from Apollo 11, the tapes that directly recorded transmissions from the moon. After an extensive search of their archives, NASA concluded that the tapes were most likely erased and reused by program managers who believed they were no longer needed, since all images and data had been archived elsewhere. NASA also stated that all data from the original tapes had been transmitted to Mission Control, and no Apollo 11 video was missing. At one point, a NASA intern even tried to sell these missing tapes, but NASA officials clarified that they were simply commercial format copies of footage already preserved. Nothing new had been lost. The Yeti. The Yeti is a giant, ape-like creature believed to inhabit the Himalayas. According to modern reports, the Yeti stands between 8 and 11 feet tall, covered in thick fur that can be brown, reddish, or black, and is shaped much like a bipedal ape. For several centuries, people have reported seeing enormous human-shaped beings in the Himalayas. One local from Tibet recounted his encounter as follows. "Living in the mountains, we hear and witness many things that people from the lowlands would find hard to believe. Most of us have spent our entire lives here, so we're more open-minded about the unusual. We're accustomed to the harsh conditions and know every path and every creature, large or small, in these mountains. My most recent encounter was truly different. Stories of giants living on the mountains have been passed down from our ancestors. Many of my friends have seen them too. They say the creatures always keep their distance, never approach humans, and live only in the wildest parts of the mountains. They say the Yeti doesn't harm anyone, but greatly dislikes weapons. One time, I was hiking alone, and after several hours of climbing, I saw a distant figure. At first, I thought it was a local, but as I got closer, I realized it was an extremely tall creature, probably about 8 feet high. Its fur was a dark reddish brown, but strangely, it still blended with the snow. It was about 60 feet away from me. Even though I'd heard many stories, I never thought I would see one with my own eyes. After a few minutes of observation, it turned and looked toward me. I started to feel uneasy because the creature was much larger than I was, but after watching me for a while, it quietly walked away. That's an experience I will never forget. What's remarkable is that in almost every Yeti sighting, the creature never gets too close to humans. Another encounter considered credible is that of Eric Shipton. In 1951, a renowned mountaineering team set out to conquer Everest, carrying state-of-the-art equipment and a modern camera to document their journey. However, what shocked the whole of Britain wasn't the climbing achievement, but rather the clear photographs of strange footprints they found at a brutally high altitude, prints shaped like those of a giant humanoid, believed to be the Yetis. The footprints were first discovered by Michael Ward, who showed them to the group. Eric Shipton then photographed them alongside his ice axe for scale. Many have doubted the authenticity of the footprints, but analysis revealed that the anatomical details were perfectly accurate, making them nearly impossible to fake. The prints showed a big toe of perfect size and placement for such a large creature, ideal for balance, and a weight distribution pattern difficult for humans to replicate by hand. To this day, these photos are still considered the most convincing evidence of the Yeti's existence, providing clues about the creature's weight, size, and evolution. Even so, skeptics argue that both the Yeti and Bigfoot are easily explained. Despite numerous photos, videos, and even recordings, they claim it's all hoaxes or simply cases of misidentified wildlife. In one example, an analysis of a Bigfoot photo concluded that it was just a bear. In many other cases, the so-called evidence turned out to be fakes or just people in costumes. The biggest issue is that such hoaxes have damaged the credibility of those truly passionate about searching for these mysterious creatures. Some of the most infamous fakes have even made mainstream headlines, causing the public to develop a negative view of mysterious beasts and of the people dedicated to studying them. The Dogman Mystery. All across North America, there are countless stories and reports of a creature known as the Dogman. It's usually described as a monstrous hybrid of wolf and man, with supernatural strength and bizarre abilities. Some witnesses compare it to Sasquatch, though with more canine features, while others believe it's a kind of werewolf demon or a skinwalker from native legend. What's strange is that for the past 60 years, there have been many reports of these creatures, and as with most other legends, the stories tend to follow a familiar pattern. Researchers have traced the earliest accounts of Dogman all the way back to 1887 in Wexford County. The story goes that two lumberjacks were talking when one of them spotted something mysterious, a being with a human body and a dog's head. When they realized it, both men immediately left, unwilling to risk sticking around. Moving forward to 1961, a security guard witnessed a similar creature in Big Rapids, Michigan. Most Dogman encounters end as simple stories, with no hard evidence. However, this security guard remembered he was carrying a camera and actually managed to photograph the giant beast. Analysts who have studied the photo agree it matches witness descriptions of Dogman. Although most reports come from Michigan, similar experiences have been recorded in other states. One of the strangest encounters ever reported took place in Sacramento, California in 1953. According to the story, a woman ran into Dogman near the city, about 300 meters west of the American River and just 600 meters east of the state capital. This woman recounted that when she was about 12 years old, lying on the sofa watching TV, she noticed a large dark shape peeking through the window. It seemed as if something was staring into the house. When she stood up for a better look, she saw a massive dog face, much larger than any dog or wolf. Its snout was long and straight, its color too dark to make out, but its eyes glowed a fierce red. She ran away in terror, at which point the creature stood upright on two hind legs over 5 feet above the ground. She screamed for her parents, causing the Dogman to run off. When her family rushed outside, nothing was there, and the window was too high for any normal dog to reach. Unfortunately, because her memories of the time were hazy, she couldn't provide more details. Another bizarre dogman report came from New York. A woman arrived home at dusk in a rural area, her 2 children in the back seat. The moment she stepped out, she felt as if she were being watched. Oddly, there was no sound, not even crickets, and no one nearby. She quickly gathered her kids and hurried into the house. At the door, she heard a deep, ferocious growl, like an enormous, angry dog. She locked the door, called her husband home, suspecting a wild animal was outside. When her husband arrived, they discovered the family cat was missing. He went out searching for signs of a bear or wolf, but all he felt was an eerie silence before seeing a large creature running through the woods. He tried to shoot at it, but it was too fast. Unable to explain what happened, they concluded it could only have been Dogman. Sadly, their cat was never seen again. In England, a woman once encountered a creature like Dogman. She said, "This was so strange. My husband and I live in the countryside, with a large garden bordering a forest, separated by a fence. One evening, as my husband went inside to shower, I sat at the end of the garden. After about half an hour, I started hearing strange noises as if someone was moving behind the fence. It was past 10 p.m. No one ever comes here at that hour. At first, I ignored it, but then kept hearing twigs snap. Curious, I looked through a gap in the wood. I was horrified to see a huge, hairy man, like something out of a horror film. I called for my husband, but he was still showering. The creature was massive, crouched to the ground, clawing at leaves. I went inside, and our 2 dogs ran out barking furiously at the far end of the yard. When my husband was dressed, we went to investigate and found scratches on the trees and huge footprints, bigger than my husband's feet. I was very worried and told him that even if it was a wild animal, nothing like that lives in England. In India, 2 gatekeepers at an outdoor market once saw a mysterious creature they couldn't explain. One described it as completely black, with glowing red eyes, accompanied by a chilling sensation just before seeing it. The other only recalled a black dog with red eyes. In fact, for many years, there have been reports around the world of enormous black dogs with glowing red eyes, usually appearing at night when witnesses are alone. Most authorities insist people are just seeing stray dogs, but eyewitnesses maintain that what they saw was nothing of the sort. What's especially interesting is that native Navajo in America have told tales of this creature for generations. Though now called Dogman, the Navajo refer to them as skinwalkers, shapeshifters described as humanoid, but with werewolf-like features, possessing extraordinary strength, able to move quickly and easily overpower humans. Despite all the reports, Dogman remains an unsolved mystery to this day. Yowie. Yowie, often called the Bigfoot of Australia, is a gigantic bipedal creature said to stand between 6 and 13 feet tall, with an appearance resembling that of a giant ape. Stories of the Yowie have existed since ancient times, originating from the legends of Australia's Aboriginal peoples. What is truly astonishing is that even today, many Australians claim to have seen a Yowie with their own eyes, and some have even formed research groups dedicated to collecting evidence about this mythical being. According to ancient legend, the Yowie was once the original master of the Australian continent until it was driven from its land by humans. This has sparked speculation that Homo sapiens may have wiped out ancient human-like species, such as Neanderthals, who shared a common ancestor with us but went extinct around 35,000 years ago. Digging deeper into Yowie folklore reveals a web of sensational conspiracies, from claims that the Australian government is hiding evidence, to suspicions that the Yowie is linked to UFO and alien sightings across the country. Some groups even believe that Yowie is an alien species, and that Bigfoot and similar creatures from other continents are actually extraterrestrial beings. Yowie sightings most often occur in Queensland, Australia. Many eyewitnesses say the creature is unlike anything they have ever seen. One woman recalled seeing a Yowie just outside her home. When she went to investigate, all that remained was a powerful, foul odor lingering in the air. She had no time to take a photo, as the incident happened so quickly, but remembered that the creature was extremely tall, human-shaped, and covered in thick fur. While Yowie is generally believed to be unique to Australia, some theories suggest that Yowie and Bigfoot are actually the same species. There are even claims that national parks around the world are the likeliest places to encounter such creatures. Notably, the rate of disappearances in national parks has always been unusually high, far exceeding any other location, regardless of the era or number of visitors. Of course, skeptics argue that this makes sense because national parks are vast and easy to get lost in, posing dangers for both novices and seasoned experts. However, there have also been cases where even experienced professionals have vanished without a trace, never to be found again. The Haunted Jefferson Hotel and the Mysterious Book. In the city of Jefferson, Texas, there is a haunted hotel not known to many, the Jefferson Hotel. Over the years, countless guests have reported inexplicable, strange phenomena while staying there. Yet, beyond all the ghost stories, the hotel is also connected to a mysterious object that only a handful have ever seen, a strange book. Not everyone gets to read this book. First, you have to know exactly where it's hidden. Some say it's kept behind the reception desk, while others claim you have to discover it yourself somewhere within the hotel. If you're among the lucky few who manage to get your hands on it, be prepared for an experience like no other, because this is not an ordinary book. It contains accounts of supernatural encounters, ancient manuscripts, and countless bizarre secrets. To read the book, you not only have to be a guest at the hotel, but also a long-time regular. The hotel itself exudes an eerie atmosphere, and even those not searching for the book often experience strange events during their stay. If you do manage to get the book, legend says you should take it back to your room and read it at night, especially right before sleep, because that's when you'll experience the most vivid, lucid dreams and maybe even a spiritual journey or sudden enlightenment. However, most people find themselves unable to finish the book without encountering something that makes them stop. The most common result after reading the book is lucid dreaming, where the dreamer becomes aware they are dreaming and can control every detail. Many are skeptical whether this is true, but scientific research has confirmed this state exists. In 2009, a neuroscience study in Frankfurt found that the brain is far more active during lucid dreams. Some people have mastered the skill and can control any situation in their dreams. However, many others who tried have been plagued by terrifying nightmares, seeing shadowy figures in black or bogeyman-like characters that haunted them for weeks afterward. Some even claim that after reading the book, they saw shadowy figures lurking in their rooms, figures believed to be shadow people, black masses that appear in places said to be haunted, or sites of tragedy. When confronted, everyone reports feeling terrified, as if the energy in the room is being drained. Some say these beings have glowing red eyes. Others claim their eyes are pure black. No one knows what they want, only that everyone who sees them believes they bring nothing good. As mentioned, the book also contains testimonies from guests who experienced strange events at the hotel, from the sound of violently splashing water to actually seeing unexplainable creatures. The forest near the hotel was once home to the Caddo tribe, who claimed they had to share the land with unfriendly giants. Some describe the book as a gateway containing all the dark events throughout the site's history, and the section you read determines the experience you'll have. For example, if you read about supernatural phenomena, chances are you'll encounter something eerie yourself. A woman once shared her experience. "I stayed at the famous Jefferson Hotel, and it changed my life. In room 12, I saw something I could never explain. My husband and I had wanted to visit for a long time, so we went in 2011. The first few days were fun, but on the last day, things changed. As I was drifting off to sleep, I heard a strange knocking. Oddly, the sound didn't come from outside the door, but seemed to echo from within the room. After a few minutes, I got up to check, but found nothing, so I lay back down. Soon after, the knocking came again, this time from the foot of the bed. As I sat up, I saw the figure of a little girl in old-fashioned clothing standing at the end of the bed, staring at me. No matter how I rubbed my eyes, the image wouldn't go away. After about 20 seconds, she walked across the room and passed straight through the door. I thought I was dreaming and woke my husband to tell him. To my shock, before I could finish, he interrupted me. He had just dreamed about a strange little girl in our room, seeing her from above and noticing her at the end of the bed. That alone was enough to keep us both awake all night, and we decided to check out. A few weeks later, back home, I grew curious and discovered that the room we stayed in was the very place where the mysterious book is most often found. The book contained detailed accounts from many guests describing encounters with a little girl appearing at night in their room, exactly what I had experienced. It sent chills down my spine. Still, some believe that the book is simply an urban legend designed to attract guests to the hotel. Whatever the truth, the mysterious atmosphere and history of the Jefferson Hotel have always shrouded the entire area. The mystery of the Dead Sea Scrolls. Mysterious manuscripts can be found all around the world, and one of the most controversial to this day is the Dead Sea Scrolls. Regarded as one of the world's most influential religions, Christianity has a history spanning over 2 millennia, and many of its legends and stories originate from Judaism. These writings, as referenced in the Bible, are often considered incomplete translations or lost scriptures, missing vast amounts of information that was removed long ago. This wasn't the result of intentional censorship by the Catholic Church, but rather due to ancient kings throughout history wanting humanity to remember only what they chose. Scholars once believed that these original texts had been completely destroyed, lost forever in the passage of time. That changed with the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls. These ancient manuscripts contain first-hand accounts of legends once mentioned in the Bible, from the Book of Enoch to the full story of Noah, as well as extensive details about the nature of angels and the fallen angels. What's striking is not just the unedited original condition of these stories, but also the strange level of detail they provide. Many passages in the Book of Enoch describe angels almost as if they were extraterrestrial beings, even telling how Enoch was taken up into a floating cloud, a place where angels dwelled, surrounded by light. Inside the cloud that Enoch described as smokeless fire, dazzling light, and thunder, he was taken out into the universe and witnessed extraordinary phenomena, what many experts today believe are early descriptions of astronomical mysteries like supermassive black holes, the sun, and other cosmic constants, all recounted from a first-person perspective. Even more fascinating, after Enoch traveled with the angels among the stars for many weeks, when he returned to Earth, he found that over 300 years had passed. This is remarkably similar to the time dilation effect when traveling close to the speed of light, a theory of special and general relativity discovered by Albert Einstein. This means it is entirely possible that the Book of Enoch is among the earliest written records of alien abduction, referenced in ancient scriptures around the world. Even so, to this day, the true nature of these scrolls remains a subject of debate, shrouded in mystery. Megalithic structures and ancient engineering mysteries. Most people know the Great Pyramid of Giza and Stonehenge. These are the famous monuments that have been featured countless times in the media. However, scattered across our planet are many other massive stone structures that few people have heard of. One of them is the Fortress of Mycenae. This site continues to baffle modern engineers and architects to this day. The construction method used here is called Cyclopean masonry, named after accounts by ancient Greek historians who described these walls as being built by Cyclopes, giants who used stones so enormous that even 2 mules couldn't budge the smallest block. Not only that, these massive walls were built without any mortar or binding material. Each stone is said to have been placed by hand by the giants who once lived here. While this may sound like an unbelievable legend, standing next to the walls of Mycenae, anyone would feel dwarfed by their size. This leads to a major question: how did ancient people move such colossal stones? Archaeologists say the ancient city of Mycenae was built atop a hill 900 feet above sea level, chosen for its defensive advantages, visibility, and proximity to water and fertile farmland. The fortress walls were built around 3,500 years ago, during the Late Bronze Age. And the amazing thing is that, despite their limited metal tools, the builders managed to construct enormous walls and fit the stones so precisely that no mortar was needed. Even modern machines would struggle to replicate this feat. Some of the stones here weigh over 100 tons and are irregularly shaped, making the construction even more incredible. One theory suggests that the ancient Mycenaeans weren't actually the builders of these structures, but merely inheritors who stumbled upon them, left behind by civilizations far older, which is why they attributed the work to the giant Cyclopes. It's because of unsolved questions like this that Mycenae and other Cyclopean structures remain enduring mysteries, as no carbon dating has ever been conducted, and there are no convincing scientific explanations. Many suspect that scholars are simply uninterested in uncovering uncovering the true secrets of these structures. Some bold theories even claim that such constructions are evidence of ancient giants, pointing to the prevalence of massive structures all over the world, from the jaws of Laius to the pyramids of Giza. Modern scientists insist we shouldn't underestimate ancient civilizations, as they may have had their own techniques, making the most of natural conditions to move stone. The ancient Egyptians are a classic example that has sparked much debate. Many proponents of the ancient aliens theory believe that the gods our ancestors worshipped were, in fact, extraterrestrial beings. One of their main arguments is the ancient Egyptian civilization, with its astonishing achievements in agriculture, science, medicine, mathematics, and city building. The first piece of evidence to mention is the Great Pyramid of Giza, one of the world's greatest wonders. The biggest question is, how did people in ancient times build such gigantic monuments, for what purpose, and why? To this day, no one has offered a convincing explanation. Despite a lifetime of dedication by archaeologists and Egyptologists around the world, the mysteries of the pyramids remain beyond our grasp. In fact, we can't even reconstruct them today, even at a much smaller scale. Realistically, with only 20,000 workers as recorded in ancient texts, calculations show that each multi-ton stone would need to be quarried, transported, hauled up a ramp, and set in place every 2 minutes and 30 seconds, a technical impossibility. Not to mention, many ancient Egyptian documents were forged to obscure issues of ownership, time, or origin, so it's entirely possible the same applies to the pyramids. Considering the sheer number of stones, the workload, and the abundance of incredible evidence, all existing theories about pyramid construction still fall short, leaving the Great Pyramids as one of history's most enduring unsolved mysteries. Thanks for watching. Leave your comments below and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the latest mysterious archaeological discoveries. See you next time.